Welcome back, everybody. Episode 63 of Crash Course, a hockey podcast. Mike Rivera, Alex Sherman. How are you, fellas?
Doing good.
Doing good.
It's been a minute.
Yeah.
Minute or two.
Couple road trips in between. Trip out of the country.
Yeah.
Trip to Chicago. Where else have we gone?
Vegas.
Oh, where have you got? Vegas?
Vegas.
I think the last time I was on, I was heading to New Hampshire. I don't even know.
So as many of you may or may not know, summertime is probably busier than the season. It's certainly more stressful in many ways, right? Recruiting is obviously the top of the game, and that's what's been going on. We just got back from main camp, which was awesome in Chicago. Some really good talent.
Really?
And, Mike, you'd mentioned it before, and that's why you have main camps.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, there was quite a few free agents that came not out of the woodworks, right? Because you recruit these kids into main camp. It's not we did our homework on these kids, and that's why you work hard at main camp, not just to have, lots of guys there, but lots of quality guys there. And, speaking, for our main camp in particular, we took free agents to the next round, which is training camp for us. Right. And they were, unfortunately, players that were protected, that won't be moving on to the next round. And there's a narrative around main camps in the North American League that they're money grabs and that teams just have them just strictly as a fundraiser, and there are no real opportunities out of it. And at the end of the day, the returners, the tenders, the drafts are the guys going through, and I can't speak for all, but I can speak for us. It's not the case.
When we got there, obviously we had our goalie session on the Thursday, and then, the big player meeting on Friday morning, which was, I think it set the tone in many ways. What was said by coaching staff, myself, or whatever, but, just it doesn't matter where you've been and where you're at, it's where you're going to be, over that weekend. And, unfortunately, we released 2 protected players, and that was the narrative going in. And if you deserve to be there, you'll be there. And if you don't, you won't. Exactly.
We're not picking a team to lose. That's, I don't know who does that. And, what was said, one of the biggest points of emphasis was, it doesn't matter, and you can have 4 goals in a game and have a bad game because there's more to hockey than putting the puck in the net.
Sure.
Absolutely.
As a goalie, you can make a lot of saves. Doesn't necessarily mean that you're the right guy to move on.
Right.
We can tell a lot by the way a kid skates. We can tell a lot by the way a kid recovers on rebounds or their rebound control. We can tell by how they track a puck, and they may not see the same quality of shots that other goalies are seeing within the weekend. And so those all factor into the decisions that are made to move somebody forward or not. And sometimes it's hard for somebody to understand, but there is a rhyme or reason, and right, wrong, or indifference. Those are the reasons that, we felt to move kids on or not move kids on.
Yeah. And it's a tough decision in many ways. We spent, and I can say hours, because it was hours.
Oh, yeah.
Kind of narrowing down to what we're going to do moving forward. And there's a lot of factors that go into play. And, we had a staff of 8 guys there.
Yeah.
And everyone had a part in it, and everyone had a voice. And it's hard. Really, really hard. You might be looking at a player that, I like this guy, and then there's 5 guys that say this, this, and this, or vice versa. So then you take a second look and maybe a third look, and you just kind of regroup again and make sure you're all on the same page. And I think we did that as a staff moving forward, with what we were doing from the goalie session into the camp itself, and then from there on. Wouldn't you agree, Sure?
Yeah, I think so. I was really impressed with our staff as a whole. I feel like we were all relatively on the same page with most of the kids, and having 8 guys from all over the country, with different viewpoints on players, we all pretty much agreed on the same guys going into the All-Star game, going into the first
it was kind of funny because when the 3 of us sat down, in the whatever party room, whatever we were doing, not the party room, but the conference room, when we sat down and started going over notes, and then we got our staff in, it's crazy how much we were similar.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't think we would do that ever again, just because.
I've never seen it in the few years that I've done it, and I can't imagine it happens again.
It was that close,
It was awesome.
Yeah, and there's going to be difference in opinions a little bit, right?
Sure.
Like some guys like certain kinds of players, other guys like other kinds of players, and everybody has their reason. And to me, that kind of shows, right? Like time and fit for an individual player can sometimes make a difference whether you move forward or not. It doesn't mean you can't play in this league. And could we get something wrong? Oh yeah, we can get something wrong without a doubt, right? And so if we did get it wrong, then what should happen is that player should be somewhere else and they should be in the league next year, right? And so if that happens, shame on us.
Yeah, you don't win the lottery every time, right?
No.
Like you miss on certain things. We're gonna miss. There's no question about it. And we did that, right? And I'm not gonna get into specifics, but we all thought that player X was this, and this, and then the reality was this player was not. Yeah. And it happens. It happens in the NHL.
Mm-hmm.
And like look at how many first rounders or number ones overall. I just remember Alexander Daigle. Remember him?
Mm-hmm.
He was supposed to be the next best thing, and he's a bag of shit.
Nail Yakupov.
Yakupov. I'm not saying we have bags of on our thing, but you know what I mean. Just everybody can get it wrong.
Yeah. You think sometimes it just doesn't translate the way that you think it will. Like the body of work that you see when you're watching the film is one thing, and then once you put them in the environment, sometimes it doesn't work out the same way. And that's hockey. And
it's camp, right? Like you see players that we're talking about specific players that you come in and they're like, holy cow.
Mm-hmm.
Where they're like, this is going to be tough. I'm not the best thing since sliced bread of where I'm from. You come down and it's an eye opener for many.
Absolutely.
And it's just like humbling. It can be. Yeah. Now you take the best of those, and we're bringing a training camp and where we're going to select our team. I think it's going to be even more so for some of these players that are, I'm not saying bubble guys, but, questionable.
Yeah, and I think there's also something to be said, right? So some of the games, when you have, teams like that, and so you end up getting down to an all-star game that only has 2 teams, right? And you have more before that. So in theory, you're trying to get down to 25, but in the all-star game, there's 2 teams of that, okay? And so within the first 4 games, the first 2 days, all that talent is spread out amongst the teams, right? And so when you see that, sometimes some players flourish more under what I would call more chaos hockey, right? It's a little less structured because the talent's a little bit more thinned out. And then it's amazing to see how much success certain players have once you get it all the way down into this really structured, high-talent, high-pace environment, which is the All-Star game. And some players really flourish in that environment. And to me, that's a huge tell of who's going to flourish in our league or not.
100%. And we did it with, and we did it with some of the players that we put in the All-Star game just to see if that was the case because there was questions out on it. And we were right. You know what I mean? Let's be honest.
Yeah.
We're not saying names, but you put we put some guys in, just let's see what they do. And it answered the question. Because, the talent is going to be even tighter, much tighter, moving forward in August.
Yeah. Yeah, when you take it into account training camp, not only is the talent tighter, but now we're talking about let's go through film. Can you make adjustments? Can you do these? Now we're coaching you even more than we did at the main camp to do these little things. And if you can't do them, you can't do them. And that's your window to make the team. And so sometimes, like, that is the separator. Like, oh, I skate better than him. I can do this better than him. But can you make it stick with the details? Because the details is really what separates in my eyes.
Yeah, it's, and we talk about size. We had some size there. You look at some of the smaller guys. There's a couple guys in particular, smaller guys. They're pretty skilled. They're pretty crafty. They're pretty sexy, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, did they succeed in the All-Star game? Yeah, I would think they did, based on what I saw, based on what we talked about. Now, can they continue that through a full season schedule? I would think so. They seem to be, I'm not going to say professional athletes, but they're on that track as far as taking care of their bodies and what they're eating. And, they take care of themselves. They're going to need to.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So I was impressed with those 2 young men.
Yep.
I think, when we wheeled in on Thursday, I'm not going to get into it all, but I was like, who in the is that? Right? And I'm not saying names.
Yeah.
I think we all were.
Yeah.
I certainly was. And then, boom, game situation. Okay, we're good.
Yeah.
You know, it just got better after that.
Yeah, no, for sure.
'Cause it was pretty funny. At least I thought it was funny.
It wasn't funny on Thursday.
Well, I was just like, it was funny. Like, because
No, it wasn't.
But you know, it was good. And we talked to the young man, right? We all did, and he's gonna be a player, man.
Yeah.
He's gonna be a player,
Yeah, as long as we don't have any goalie sessions.
right? Yeah. But you know what, man? Practice, he wasn't my thing either. You know what I mean? Especially shooting on goalies for an hour.
Oh yeah.
Like, you can only score so much.
See, I got a problem with that, though.
Yeah.
To me, okay, there are guys who are gamers, and they're just better in a game than practice,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But there's a baseline for practice. There's a there's a minimum of what you have to be able to do in a practice. Because then how am I ever going to put you in the lineup and throw you over the boards if you're a certain type in practice,
Sure.
right?
But if that certain type of practice is always this type in a game, what does it matter? That's, you know, just being devil's advocate.
Everything matters.
Yeah, true enough. But I was kind of one of those guys.
Yeah, but your difference in practice was your choice, not that you weren't good in practice.
Oh, okay. So now okay.
Right?
So it's choice, not my ability. Is what you're thinking and saying.
Yeah, because obviously you moved on to the next level. But if you were making that choice, I don't think you'd be making it here. Because how long would you have stayed here?
Probably not very long.
Exactly.
But yeah, no, I get it. But it was, you know, the goalie sessions were good, man. Those guys are bagged.
Oh, they were gassed for sure.
They were bagged. And 2 sessions of those, and then jumped into Friday morning. It was good. Overall, camp was really good, man. I was impressed. Pretty much went smooth to what it was the year before. That's all we'll say on that. But it was good.
Yeah, it was good.
A lot of compliments. I'm still getting them today from
Yeah, so
players
am
and
I.
parents. So that's a really good thing. So
I'm just getting hate emails.
Oh.
Yeah. Well, I should have been there.
you should have.
Yeah.
Be better. No,
Exactly.
you know, it's you can't please everybody, right? And it's hard, right? And again, can we get some things wrong? Absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
You know, but now as players that don't move on, it's how you react to that.
Next shift mentality.
You know, next shift mentality. So what are you going to do as a player, right or wrong? What are you going to do to get that training camp invite?
Yeah.
Whether it's with us or another organization.
Exactly.
You know, to those young athletes that are watching, man, perception, attitude, everything it means something. You know, we had a young man that we talked to on Saturday night, and the news that was delivered wasn't very positive. But the way he reacted was a complete pro, and now it makes us think, did we do the right thing
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
based on his reaction?
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, we're probably a little bit more intrigued to go to bat for this young man and help him find a home, whether it's somewhere else or even back with us. So for any young listeners out there, it's, you know, your reaction means everything. It can help, you know, curve your future, or it can't. It's how you do it, how you adapt, man.
Yeah. How you handle things, right?
Mhm.
Everybody's a good kid. Everybody's a good teammate when things are going well for them. When things are going wrong for you, that's really who you are. That's when you show your true colors, and that young man in particular shows true colors when things weren't going well. And I got a lot of respect for him now.
100.
Not that I necessarily didn't before, but I got volumes of it now.
Sure. And, you know, there was some of the young men that came in that we spoke with, you know, it was just, you know, especially on Sunday, you know, some were dress pants and golf shirts. They looked really nice. You know what I mean? They took it serious. And I'm not saying because you didn't dress that way, you didn't, but it was just nice to see that, how they took it. You know, talking to these young guys after a long weekend was, you know, especially on Sunday when we talked to them, it's more of a good news session type thing. But it's nice to see some of those kids put a smile on their face when you tell them they're moving on. You know what I mean? And just kind of like, man, it feels good as a coach, as a staff, right?
Yeah, the couple kids were ear to ear, man.
Yeah, man.
That's pretty cool.
That was awesome.
It makes you feel good. And it just, those kids, it just like, they appreciate the opportunity, and, you know, they're going to get it. And
Oh,
that's
yeah.
awesome.
Yeah, they're gonna get their chance, man.
But it was long, man. It was, up at the crack of dawn and, getting out of there late. And, hats off to all the participants and all the players, whatnot, that showed up every day battling, man. It was good. The competition was really good. Any moments there that stood out for you guys? Good or bad?
I mean, I think overall, really, the All-Star game was really good. It started off really heavy and strong and physical, and I really liked seeing that. And it kind of settled down a little bit once they kind of all fell into their roles on the team and everything. But the All-Star game I think was a big highlight for me. I think it was really good. I think we did a good job of selecting those guys that went through. There was really high compete, and I was pretty impressed with that for sure.
One thing that stood out for me, because I guess I really haven't had the opportunity to do this at a North American League main camp. I can confirm I haven't. When the pace slowed down, when the pace wasn't something we liked, the ability of our staff to not just say, this is brutal, and write it off, but to be able to go down there and coach it and say, hey, this isn't meeting the expectation of what we need as an organization for you to stick and make this team, and be able to coach up a main camp game, right? And make the quality of that game better than what it started as.
Right.
And to me, just showed, like, if you put the effort in these things, just how much more juice you can squeeze out of it. And you might find something that wasn't going to be there if you didn't try to impact it. And at the end of the day, right, it's our job as coaches to squeeze every ounce of juice out of these kids once they get here. So we got to know if they're going to react to us.
Yeah.
And so that game in particular, and you guys know which one I'm talking about, showed me that some of these kids are going to rise to the occasion. They are going to react to it, right? And those are the kind of kids you want here. And so it's really easy to sit up top and just sit back and throw your hands up and say, well, forget about it. Or you could try to do something about it. It may not work out still, but at least you tried.
I would agree with that, right? I think all the coaching staff from, everybody, that went on the bench wasn't just sitting there looking at a clipboard, whatever, looking on their phone, like totally engaged, coaching, talking to kids, understanding them. And I think that was huge that for our staff. And then the guys up top evaluating, really engaged. And that's probably the biggest compliment that I got, was that how professional the staff was. And that says a lot. It really, really does. And, these kids are investing time and money. Let's be honest. They deserve that. Yeah. And if you're not giving that back, it's wrong. I believe that. So I got two highlights for me. First one is when I coached Team Black. That was the most fun I've had coaching in a very long time. Just, there was such a good young bunch of kids, just having fun. You beat us, Mike. I remember that.
I was going to say, did you guys win or lose?
No, we lost.
we were up game all weekend.
We were up. No, whatever, dude. I wanted to let you guys get a feel for it. You know what I mean?
I got my feel.
But coaching those guys was a lot of fun. We just had a lot of jokes and fun on the bench, and just trying different things. That was probably one of them. And then the second one is Kevin Rollick.
Oh, what a beauty!
One of our new scouts that came on board. He's up at Crystal Beach Academy. Not just kind of the guy he was, but the kind of coach he is with those young kids, and how he interacts with them, and it's simply amazing how all the kids loved him.
Oh,
And I see kids, all the players loved him. And it's just like, this guy just is nonstop. Knows players' names, already has nicknames for them, all sorts of crap. And that was probably the nicest surprise, just with the interaction that he's had with those kids. And you can't teach that.
No.
Either you have it or you don't. And it says volumes for him. And so those are my two. He's a good dude.
He's awesome.
Yeah, he's a good time, man. I like
Definitely a good time. What I tell you, I told you he was going to be huge.
Yeah, he's a monster.
His kid's a monster.
Yeah,
Yeah, he is.
And he's not even done.
No.
I think a kid's 6'5".
Yeah.
Because Kev's probably 6, all of that.
Oh, for sure. I think he's an
His head's 6'5".
Yeah. For sure. His head's 50, 60 pounds.
Easily.
There's a lot of brains in there.
He's like 3 1/4 and 75 pounds are his head. You know what I mean? But his hands, he's got little manitos. His little hands.
Does he? I didn't notice that.
I did. That's kind of weird, but I was going to call him out on it, but he's bigger than me.
Yeah. He's got to show up, man.
Just got to show up. Yeah, exactly, man. Yeah, speaking about showing up, there were some good tilts.
Yeah, there's a couple,
You know, TJ led with his face a couple times.
Yeah.
You know?
He's pretty good at that.
Just kidding, Trevor. If you're
Yeah.
watching, just kidding. It's bobbing and weaving, bud. Bobbing and weaving.
The most willing at camp, though.
Yeah. That's what I was a little bit disappointed in the All-Star game. There was not a lot of that. Well, there was really none of it.
None.
And North American League is a tough league, especially the South Division, and there's a lot of it. Not a lot of fighting, but a lot of standing up for yourself. And didn't necessarily see that on Sunday morning.
To me, it's just about, it's less about the fighting and more about when you fight, you're displaying a willingness to do anything, to be there and do anything for your team, including taking one or multiple punches to the face. And if you're willing to do that, you are showing that you'll do anything. And those are the kind of guys that you want, right? It almost is even more so for a guy who may be punching out of his weight class a bit and knowing he's probably going to take a licking and even takes said licking and then gets back out there and keeps going.
You know, nobody cares so much as if you win or lose, as long as you show up.
Yep.
That's right.
You know, I've told kids in the past when I was coaching, and all you got to do is fight once. That's all you got to do, because then you have a completely different understanding of what it takes and how it feels.
Mm-hmm.
It's not as scary as what you think.
No.
You know, and that's the biggest thing with these kids. And I'm not saying to go out there and fight all the time, because that's not what I'm saying, but you become a different player. You get a lot more confidence, and you're bigger in many aspects. And that's the truth. Do it one time, get beat up or win. Completely different feeling.
For sure.
And when people just know you're willing, it's a game changer.
Oh, man. Yeah, 100%. And you know, it is what it is in the game. You see it NHL, like those guys, it's like they get allowed with murder out there, you know, in the playoffs. You look at Edmonton, Florida, like it was just crazy. 2 minutes, not even a penalty, you know what I mean? And then they get suspended for some chicken shit. But, you know, it's crazy. It's part of the game, and it's hopefully it never goes away, because that would be a sad day in hockey if it did.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Big crime.
Because it's part of it. It's part of it. And again, you don't have to go out there and kill anybody. Show up, defend yourself, defend your teammates. We talk about guys doing things out of role. Going to talk about a particular player. Mike, you're going to know who I'm talking about. Blocked 2 big shots in the All-Star game.
Yeah.
I would have never thought that would be part of his forte based on the skill set. I was really surprised in a very positive way.
Me too, especially at 9:45 on a Sunday morning, right?
Yeah.
Like
There's
if you're
better
gonna
things to do than block shots, but yeah.
if you're gonna do it there, what are you gonna do for us in Game 5, right?
Yeah. I mean,
When it's in front of a sold out crowd.
that's on the same page as fighting for me. You know, it's if you're gonna go out there and put your body on the line to eat a puck, like you're gonna take a punch. It's the same, same.
And I'm going to have to
mentality.
say that young man does that in practice all day long too.
I would have to guess.
You'd have to
After seeing
assume.
Because
so.
you don't, like, to me, it's hard to turn it on or off. Either you do have it or you don't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You
Yeah,
know,
either you're willing to put it on the line or you don't. Like
you know, you can go out there and Cinderella it, once in a blue moon, but
Little flamingo.
yeah.
like
yeah.
it's hard to pretend to block a shot.
Well,
Right.
I always say if you want to be good at blocking shots, you have to want to block shots.
Yeah.
If you don't want to block shots, you're never going to be good at it.
No way.
No. And it's the guys that don't want to do it end up getting hurt when they're blocking a shot,
don't know how
because
to
they
do it.
turn, and they get hit where there's no padding. If you know what I mean. I'm not to say you can't get hurt if you know what you're doing, but you guys understand what I'm saying.
Yeah. Can you do that again?
Is that good enough for you?
Can you clip that?
Yeah, I
Cause?
think that's the
Yeah, you might want to clip that,
social
cause.
media.
That's a gift
That's
right
fine,
there.
buddy. It's a gift. I'm giving you a free gift, cause. Blocking shots. There it is again. But yeah, so those were my highlights.
You're going to regret doing that, man.
I don't really give it. You know what, Mike? Comes around, bud. I don't get mad. I get even.
All right.
Trust me, I know from experience.
But so camp was great. Let's move on, and training camp will be August 19th, I think, is when we start rolling on that, and then get right into the season.
Yep.
But we have not talked. Let's go with 5 more minutes here, boys. We haven't talked about the NHL playoffs, Stanley Cup winners, Florida. That's been that long.
Shocker.
Shock. You see who they're freaking signing, man? Everybody.
Yeah.
They're going to do it a third time.
You
They're
know,
lined up to do it a third
they're
time.
lined up to do it. I don't know if the hockey gods will allow it, but
I don't know if their bodies will allow it. That's a lot of hockey in 3 years.
it is a lot of hockey in 3 years.
It's a lot of hockey.
But it's the best part about the Stanley Cup Finals is watching those guys after. I think it's the greatest thing.
Oh,
We
yeah.
talked about it before. I wasn't a big Ovechkin fan until he won the cup.
Yeah.
Same with who's a dipshit on Florida?
Marchand?
No, Tampa. The real
Which
skilled
one?
guy. The skilled guy.
Stamkos, Kucherov.
Kucherov. I wasn't a Kucherov fan until he won the Stanley Cup. That's what started it for me because when he was just, dude, that guy's a rock star.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Like, if you haven't seen Sam Bennett's speech at the parade
Yeah.
in Florida this year, you got to watch that because I think that's pretty awesome right there, too.
You know, in Marchand, I wasn't a real big Marchand fan until now. Just how he is as a player and how he's as a locker room guy. You know, all you hear is negative shit until, Sam Bennett, like, he's the best leader ever. And they hated each other.
Yeah.
You know,
You don't get to see him. You just don't get to see in Boston by being a bad teammate. It's just not going to happen.
Right.
And be there for that long and then get to see.
Sure.
No way.
But that's perception, though. You know what I mean? Like, they just. But listen to him now. He's freaking trolling everybody, and I think it's hilarious.
I love
He's
it.
awesome, man.
He's
He's always
awesome.
been one of my favorite guys. Everyone calls him a rat, and it's like
He is
yeah,
a rat,
He's a
He's a,
rat.
guy,
Yeah.
he's a guy you want on your team day in and
100.
day out. You hate
Oh.
playing against him, and you want him on your
and
team.
he's making some good money.
I
I
got
think
another
he
6-year
I think
deal.
he took a pay cut a little bit to stay there.
Oh, he took a hometown discount.
Yeah,
no
I think
doubt.
they all are.
Yeah.
Ekblad is it Ekblad?
Ekblad.
Ekblad. He's re-signing.
Yeah, all three of them signed. All the three big guys that were supposed to be.
I think the only one is Bobo.
Oh,
Who's the goal?
he's good.
Yeah,
One more year though.
He's got another year.
10
Yeah.
million.
Yeah.
But I'm sure they'll figure that out.
Well, as a goalie, they're not re-signing him as a restricted free agent.
No.
Like not unless he's willing to take a discount
Sure.
because age, like you can't do that.
Yeah, no. If they win again, maybe he does. But
If I win a third time and I'm his age, I'm flying off into the sunset. I'm done. I'm going home and calling it a day.
But
That's
man,
me,
like
though.
it's so. I would think it would be so hard to retire after winning the Stanley Cup,
Yeah, I agree.
just because of all the juice that's going, all the freaking good times in the summertime. Man, it's pretty hard, and pretty contagious to stick around. But I hear what you're saying.
Yeah.
You have this like invincible feeling like I can keep doing this. I think
Oh, I'm sure you have.
Tom Brady's like
Yeah.
the perfect example of that, right? Like he gets it done in Tampa Bay. He's not done yet. He has to go back for another year. Like you're like, oh
Yeah.
Until they tell me no, I'm gonna keep playing.
That's fair.
Who knows, man? I wish I was in that situation,
Yeah,
but
right?
we're not here in wonderful El Paso. But the weather's been nice.
Yeah.
That's for sure. Usually it's hot.
How about Mitch Marner?
Dude, why you got to bring him up? I was having a good day until now.
What do you mean? He got out of Toronto.
Still hate Toronto. Still hate him. Now I hate the Vegas Knights.
He's gonna do really well
Yeah,
there.
I think so.
You think so?
Yeah,
He's
I
gonna
think-
do
I think
really
so.
well there. It's a perfect fit.
I will bet you
Okay.
that he's not going to do as well as you think.
Well, I
Well,
mean,
how do you
well,
bet,
we
how do
just
you
gauge
bet on
it.
that? Yeah, how do you gauge that?
Okay,
How
if
do you
he's
bet on
freaking top 10 in scoring and has 50 goals, that's pretty good.
that? Does he
but if
match?
he's
Does he
got-
match?
has
what
he ever had 50 goals?
No, but you're saying he's going to do real well because it's fit.
Do you match?
I
Do
don't-
you match what he did last year?
What did he do last year?
100 points or something?
Oh, he'll do that.
Okay.
That's real well.
So that's not good.
No, not for him.
You don't have
Not
to score
real
50
well.
to do real well.
I just think he's a rat, man. I think not a rat. He's just a freaking weasel. Man.
Oh, he's a baby, no doubt.
Like that's what I can't stand.
But
But
he,
anyway,
he needs to get out of the Toronto environment. He needs to get into the Vegas environment. He's not going to be able to do the whiny shit that he did in Toronto anymore. It's these Canadian markets, man.
what about him? Since we're carving Canadian markets
Start
now.
to. I mean, look at. Okay, let's go through this. All right.
Oh God.
You ready?
I'm
Okay, so
100%.
let's start with you talked about Florida and just the perfect team, the way it was built, right? How did they do it? They stripped apart the Calgary Flames.
With
and
Canadians.
yes, but they stripped apart the Calgary Flames. Calgary made a decision, moved on from certain
Big
guys,
time.
right? And now that was a core that went on, and look what they did, right? Then you talk about Toronto. They got to make moves,
Yeah.
right? they get rid of Marner, he's going to be successful there. If they don't address the right things, they're going to continue to have problems there. Edmonton, back-to-back years with being in the Cup, what's it going to take for them to get it done, right? You see how come all these Canadian markets keep getting there, but they can't get it done? Like, it's a question now.
Yeah, no, I think we all would agree. You know, money's a big thing, right, in the Canadian markets, just because of the tax. Yeah. And, you know, some of these big-time guys don't want to go there because of that. And they're getting – I don't know how it works. I think some of them get paid U.S. dollars, some get Canadian, depending on how their contract's structured. But either way, you're taking a hit. And let's be honest, if I was playing in the NHL, I wouldn't want to play in Canada. I wouldn't want to play for any of them.
No.
Just because of that, right? Like you're taking a 35% pay cut, 40% pay cut right off the hop.
And my thing is, like, I would ask you, do you ever have a bad day?
No.
You never had a bad day?
Oh, yeah.
You have bad days, sure?
Yeah, quite a few.
Well, the problem is with those guys, when they have a bad day,
It's a bad day.
hey, it's on the front page of the newspaper.
100%.
Their families are getting attacked. Their house, you know, and it's like, come on.
Like,
Lay
I
off
think,
these people, man.
you know, there's talk about, you know, McDavid going. Now, is he a sign and trade deal? I don't know. Like, they got to do something, because if there's a sniff that he's leaving and they don't trade him now, they're going to lose out on that. Now, if he doesn't go this year, he's staying, obviously, because Edmonton would have lost out, right? They're going to make it right. Now, I don't know how much you can make it right for the guy. Like, are they bringing in a netminder? Because that's, to me, that's their biggest.
100%.
And then they just signed Boucher for freaking 4 years, some odd stupid money. I think that's stupid. That's stupid.
Boucher?
Yeah.
I'm not a fan. Like, he's good, man.
Really?
Yeah, big money. It's like another
Yeah, I don't know
Darnell
what the
Nurse
number
freaking
is.
contract. Like, to me, like there's better out there, man.
The Darnell Nurse contract is a big.
They need to.
That
do
one's
something
tough.
with that.
So, like, now what are they doing for netminding? You know, like, I don't know, man. I think that is their biggest downfall.
And there's not much out there. There's not much on the market. I was watching TSN this morning, and I was looking at the guys that are available. There's not much. Like, Nikolai Ehlers is the number one, you know, unrestricted, and he's in Winnipeg. They're another Canadian market that did really well, and he wants out because he doesn't want to be in the limelight.
Yeah.
You know, like, what, you know.
That's tough.
What are you gonna
hit
do?
it on the spot. Like, the Canadian market's tough to play, man.
It is.
Even Calgary. Like, Calgary's, you know, it's not a big market in Canada, but, you know, they're all over the place. You know, they're the ticket.
Paul Maurice chose to leave Winnipeg. Now he felt that his voice was stale in the room, right? Then he pops up in Florida. He had the longest tenure without winning one, and now he's got 2 back-to-back.
Yeah.
Like,
And he's putting himself in a good spot for 3. It'll be good. You know, NHL playoffs are my favorite time of year, man. You know, 6-8 weeks or whatever it is. It's longer than that, but it's awesome. There's nothing better, in my opinion. Nothing.
I agree.
Well, gentlemen, we're running over a little bit here. You know, I know we got a lot to do. We got another camp coming up in Phoenix here in another month or so, 3 weeks. So that'll be the last one before we get the ball rolling. But anyway, gentlemen, thanks for jumping on again, and we'll see what plays out here in the next week or two with free agency in the old NHL. Something to talk about next week.
Sounds good to me.
Yeah, see how it goes.
All right, boys. Thanks.